Welcome everyone to yet another podcast, blab, video broadcast. Call it what you want. But we're really excited to be talking today about a theme, Joshua Project, highlighting the unreached. And this will be a Christian blab about missions, about the unreached, about how you can be involved in the Great Commission. And it is just that. I say it all the time, the Great Commission, not the Great Suggestion. I do believe there are lots of people out there who are going to be inspired for what God is doing and find some way to be involved using their own skills and giftings. And that's why I'm really excited to be talking to Dwayne Frazier from Joshua Project today. So, well, first of all, let me go ahead and introduce myself. My name is David Joannis. I'm the founder and president of Unreached Global. It's a nonprofit missions organization that is targeting unreached people groups in the 1040 window, specifically in China. And here, you can check it out right on the link there, unreachedglobal.org. And I also blog at davidjoannis.com. You want some great missions articles and blogs, go check out this website. Not all about me, that's for sure. I often curate different blogs from great missiologists and missionaries and like-minded people on mission. And so there's some really great articles about that. So yeah, go ahead and follow me there if you'd like. Also, while we're doing this broadcast, you can feel free to tweet. In fact, I'm going to do that right now. You could share this out with your friends. Hey, nice to see you, Ruach Ministries USA. I'm probably butchering that title, sorry. Ruach. So feel free to share this on your Facebook, on your Twitter. It's over there on the left-hand side. You can ask questions, engage. You could give Dwayne props like this, and myself. We'll see who wins at the end. No, just kidding. Dwayne's already up 17-0. Go Broncos.
Yeah, and that comes all from David for now. We'll see.
Yeah. Yeah. So, yeah, I'm excited to be talking today to, oh, there we go. Boosting up the love there. Appreciate it. Talking to Dwayne Frazier, researcher at Joshua Project. Dwayne, why don't you go ahead and introduce yourself for those who are watching?
Okay. Dwayne Frazier. I'm one of the few who work on Joshua Project staff. We're actually quite a small organization, but because of the internet, we have incredible reach. We stand on the shoulders of a lot of people who have done a lot of research and feed that to Joshua Project. Field personnel doing things that people in an office in Joshua, in Colorado Springs could not be doing. We're just three staff. It's kind of amazing. I joined staff about 6 years ago. Yeah. And I couldn't believe. I thought there must have been about a dozen people working on Joshua Project.
Or more. So,
yeah. So I was actually in Mexico at the time. We were doing research, feeding it to Joshua Project. We were doing a project in Spanish. We needed information from Joshua Project. So it was just a natural fit, and just really excited to be part of what we get to do. So take this information of the unreached people groups, actually all the people groups that we're aware of in the world, share that with the church, and the unreached groups, that list becomes the kind of the work list for the church regarding frontier missions.
Awesome. Yeah, I've been following Joshua Project obviously for many, many years. I've been a missionary in China for nearly the last 20 years. I went to Teen Mania Ministries, the Honor Academy at that time. That was 1996. And we were doing perspectives on the world Christian movement. And then the early stages of my missionary venture, just always checking Joshua Project. And it has enhanced and empowered our ministry within Unreached Global. And just really transformed how we are able to focus on and connect those who are the least reached people. So I'm excited and honored to be able to be talking to you today about all that Joshua Project is doing.
Well, we're really glad that you're listening in and checking in and promoting, David. We appreciate that. And, it takes all kinds like this to get the word out. I think Unreached, the Unreached concept and that term has kind of enjoyed a heyday. And, there was a time when I think it was kind of ebbing, in popularity. Not that it's a popularity contest, but, Ralph Winter, in his address in 1974, the Lausanne address, he referred to them as the hidden peoples. And
which we don't ever use that word anymore, do we?
Yeah, in fact, he wanted to use that instead of unreached. He actually came to an agreement so that everybody would be kind of on the same page, talking about the same thing. And so, our heart is that there won't be such a thing as hidden peoples. So that's why Joshua Project exists, to get that, promoted to the global church. And I want to emphasize global. I'll talk about that probably later on. The church, as you say, it's not a suggestion. It's a Great Commission. It wasn't just given to 12 people. It certainly wasn't given to Westerners. It was given to every follower of Christ. Yeah. And so there's some exciting things going on around the world. And we get to be a part of this by just saying, hey, don't forget these hidden people.
Yes.
Forget these unreached.
Yeah. Now, tell me about what was called U.S. Center for World Missions. Again, another source, especially in perspectives on the world Christian movement, with a bunch of great authors and writers. That is your umbrella organization, now called Frontier Ventures, right?
That's correct. That name was, I think that name is about 1 year old. They made that name change.
Yeah.
Part of the reason, I think, is to, not say, hey, we are the Center for World Mission.
Sure, yeah.
And so, that's been going on for quite some time with Dr. Winter. Joshua Project has been on board with them for, I think, 9 years. That's been kind of our cover.
Partnered together? I see, yes.
Yeah, we have. It's, shared DNA, of course. The head of Joshua Project, he was seconded from U.S. Center, what used to be the U.S. Center for World Mission, to the AD 2000 and beyond movement with Louis Bush. That was started in the early 90s. The idea was, the great battle cry was, a church for every people group by the year 2000. Wasn't saying we were definitely going to do this. It was saying the church at that time, and certainly in our day, has the resources, has the manpower to obey the commission and get it done.
Yes.
We'll do that. Of course, that's an unanswered question. And so as a part of understanding, okay, how do we know that we've gotten a church for every people group by the year 2000? They needed a list of the people groups. And so 20 years ago, last month, Joshua was begun to answer that question with a people group list.
Well, happy birthday.
Yeah.
20 years old today.
Yeah, that's great. I've been a part of it for just 6 years, but it's amazing. Yeah, 20 years.
Yeah, for me, I've spent the last 2 decades traveling into these very rural regions of Southwest China, traveling among numerous ethnic people groups. By the way, if we use the word unreached and you're unsure what that means, go ahead, feel free to leave a question. If you click that little, on the message bar, there's a little slash. Click the slash, scroll up to where it says question, or you could push /Q and ask a question. What in the world does unreached mean? You could throw things out there like that. But basically what we mean is those who live specifically for Joshua Project, myself included, those who live in the 1040 window, the area from 10 to 40 degree latitude that stretches across from Northwest Africa through the Middle East, all the way to the Asias. Poorest of the poor live in this area. Most of the unchurched, unreached, that means they have no access to the gospel. No Christian radio stations, no Christian bookstores, no missionary, no viable witness of the church. If there are some Christians, there are so few that they don't even register as a percentage. And obviously you can check out joshuaproject.net for more information about that. As I go into these villages, I remember many times just walking in and saying, 你们这儿有没有听说过耶稣基督? Which, of course, if you're viewing live, you would have said the same thing, of course, in my position, right? Have you ever heard of Jesus here? And they'll say, 那是不是一种香皂的牌子? Is that a brand of a soap? They have no concept of what in the world a Jesus is. And we're talking about those who have no access to the Christian gospel in the 21st century. Meanwhile, I'm here with Dwayne, broadcasting live, using technology. So a church for every people group. We are talking about a priority issue, I would say, right, Dwayne? I mean, the focus has not been unreached peoples.
Yeah, definitely. I want to make very clear, and I think Joshua Project talks about this a little bit more than ever before, that when we talk about unreached, we're not saying this is the only way to do missions and this is the only priority. But again, back to that kind of, they've been hidden, they've been forgotten, or they've just always been overlooked because of some reason. You're talking about the 1040 window, David. You're talking about some of the most difficult terrain. Geographically, you're talking about certainly some difficult access, restricted. There's a reason the unreached are unreached in this millennium. I do encourage people to, ask questions like David was saying, what is unreached? Maybe I can just jump in and answer that.
Hey, tell you what, let me go like this. I want to make it kind of front and center for everyone. I have this question, and that way everyone can kind of follow. It's the same question you just asked. So, but I wanted to ask you this here, and I could blast it up underneath us as we talk. There, can you give us some clear definitions of what the word unreached means?
Okay, great. So, it's a term that's out there. It's being used, popularized. People are throwing it around. For some of our listeners, it might be a totally new term. Now that you've heard it, now you'll start to hear it in other places. Places like Christianity Today and, even in the news and such. But for Joshua Project specifically, it's a quantified thing. And so we know that these aren't magic formulas, but it's an attempt to find out who are the least of the least as far as reachedness for the gospel. And so we say that it's a people group that is less than 2% evangelical and less than 5% Christian adherent. Why the difference? Because, you can get someone who would say on a census form, I'm a Christian, but they have no clue about what following Christ really is. So we're trying to track, to the best of our knowledge, who are true Christ followers. Now, what does that mean? I mean, we're not setting ourselves up judges about someone's spiritual quality or condition. Just trying to gauge, okay, where is the greatest need for the gospel?
Yes. Well, great answer to that. And basically, I wanted to add this, because whenever you go anywhere, I'll go back and speak at churches regularly when I'm back in America looking for vision partners for Within Reach Global. Welcome, Kirsten. So I would often say, the unreached, the unengaged, and people say, oh, there's lots of unreached here in my own city. What we're talking about here is ethno-linguistic tribes and people groups, what Revelation 7:9 describes as every nation, tongue, tribe, language there in front of the throne in heaven. And so we're not categorizing these people groups as subcultures or subgroups. For example, coffee connoisseurs and hackers, not a people group, therefore cannot be unreached or reached. Okay, we have different definitions here. I wanted to throw that out there. So for the most part, in America, you're never going to find an unreached person except those who migrate from different nations, different countries. And I think it's helpful to understand these definitions because it, again, refocuses our priorities back on God's heart, Jesus, who would leave the 99 safe and tucked away, not leaving them forever, but leave the 99 for the sake of the one. And in this case, what we're talking about, the one, we're talking about 2 billion of those ones who are unevangelized in the 1040 window.
Yeah, I'm really glad you made that distinction, David. My wife and I just moved into our first home in Colorado Springs. So I'm kind of getting ready to, or kind of getting to know the neighborhood, the exact neighborhood. So the other night I was heading out trying to find a post office. I'm meandering down these streets to find the nearest post office. I kind of knew where it was. I passed two churches on the way that I didn't know were there. Okay, so in English, my heart language, of course, my wife's is Spanish, actually.
Okay.
But the gospel's just there on every
Sure.
corner.
Sure. Access.
Many radio stations, how many versions of the Bible, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
So yeah, like you're saying, it's a very important clarification that no, my town is not unreached. They might not be responding to the gospel the way I want them to, but there's no barrier.
Sure.
So let me just talk about the definition of a people group. Talking about barriers. So this is a definition that's been with us since 1982. And it's for the purposes of frontier missions. Okay, so it's going to be very mission speak.
Hey, but you're talking my language here now.
Yeah, so it's any people group it's any time that the gospel encounters a barrier to the gospel, a barrier of two types, either acceptance or understanding. So understanding, I think automatically in our mind, we could begin to think of language barriers. Yeah. But Joshua Project goes beyond that because sometimes people have a language in common, but it's an us them kind of thing.
Yeah.
We speak this language, or we have a language in common with our neighbors over across that ridge. We go to the same market maybe, but I mean, it could even be like fighting between because of some accidental death some years ago, something like that. So let me read this question you have up here, David.
Okay, yeah, I'm going to put this on but I wanted to ask you this, kind of going back to the original purpose, by the way, of Joshua Project. I know we touched on it, but there's been a number of people who joined since. And by the way, I would love for you guys to share this out, tweet it, share it on Facebook, because I'm passionate about Unreached, and I believe in what Joshua Project is doing. I would love to get the word out, inspire more Christians, Great Commission Christians, to help reach the rest and reach the least reached. So I want to go back basically to the vision of Joshua Project. What is the overall purpose of Joshua Project? You touched on it a moment ago, but in the About section of your website, you say, we help mission strategists to ask where is the greatest need. Our desire is to help focus the church on the most spiritually needy ethnic people groups. Would you say that sums up your passion?
Definitely. Again, there's lots to be done in the missions world, stuff that's not unreached. That's okay. But Joshua Project is trying to lift high this banner of those who are hidden and forgotten. Those, I like that term that we're using, the spiritually needy. Or we could we actually talk sometimes about the gospel poor. It's that the gospel is not flowing within this people group the way it is down the road here, or potential for that. Yeah, we don't need any outside help in in my people group. But there are groups where there may be, you mentioned before, there may be some believers even.
Sure,
we're not
sure.
It's important that we don't say that unreached means there's no missionaries or no Christians. There could be, but Joshua Project is measuring the response so far. And so there's these low numbers, these low percentages tip us off to know that without outside help, the gospel isn't going to flow within this group.
And, as you talk there, it makes me think about all that you're doing at Joshua Project. You got research, again, a team of 3, to me, is transform the missions world. I'm amazed. I didn't realize that. I thought I was going to get to the call center, be transferred from desk to desk until I finally got to Mr. Dwayne Frazier. But God is just using a small group of like-minded people to truly empower things. But I guess my question is, here it is, another one. So does all this missions data, the numbers, the statistics, do they really matter? I mean, how does this make a difference? You're sitting there typing away behind your desk, collecting all this data. Does it sit on a website vacant there and people check it every once in a while? How is this truly making a difference?
I would say one of the things that, if you had seen the Joshua Project in the early days when it first hit the internet, about 2001, 2002, the first time I engaged with the website, it was, you better love numbers and you better love lit, because it was, the internet wasn't as graphical at that time anyway, but, it is a lot to do with the numbers. What I love about what we get to offer these days is profiles along with it. And so you'll see photos, you'll see a description of their life and their situation, and many times even a map that kind of at least estimates where they're living.
Sure.
Why all of that? So that it's not just numbers, but these numbers are very important that sit behind this because they tell a story. Numbers do. If you know how to kind of interpret them, and they're indicating something. I just read a book just recently, How Google Works, and that was actually a message they were saying. What are the numbers saying? Follow the numbers and act accordingly. Well, I don't know if anyone's heard of Google, but they're doing a pretty good job with their numbers. So not just dry numbers, but numbers that tell this story.
Sure.
That kind of bring to the fore who are these hidden groups.
And when you're talking about statistics, numbers, data, the reality is these statistics have names, they have faces, they have aspirations, they're teetotalers or coffee drinkers, they're real life human beings. I recently wrote an article on my website, davidjoannis.com. Something, I can't remember what the title is, but did you know unreached people groups are actually real people? Because it becomes a dry term, and their names are Li Yonghui, their names are Fu Aming. They have real names in my context, in the Chinese context. So I agree. They're numbers that tell stories. By the way, I recently did a really exciting blab conversation with Steve Shermer from Silk Road Catalyst. By the way, he's blasting out. Look, telling his friends on Facebook, telling his friends on Twitter. We had a great conversation of the final frontier of missions, the Silk Road, and all that he's passionate about doing. He's watching now. Steve, do you wanna call in? And I kind of want to get to this question that you just asked here a moment ago, as well as some ideas that we were talking about the other day. If you'd like to call in, go for it. I'd like to hear your own heart instead of me just reading these questions, which I could do, but I'm sure you'd ask them much better.
It looks like Steve's asking a question right now.
Awesome. He's calling in. Yeah. Well, here's Steve from Silk Road Catalyst.
Maybe he could ask
the question. There he is.
Hi, Steve.
The man, the myth, the legend.
Hey, good evening.
Good to see you.
Almost forgot. We're actually leaving tomorrow for a little vacation.
Oh, really? Well, you have to get your last blab in there, right?
Of course.
Nice to meet you, Steve.
Yeah, it's great. What's your name? I came in late, so I didn't even catch your name. Wade?
Wayne, it's not Joshua, and my last name's not Project.
Dwayne Frazier.
Oh, Dwayne. Okay, got it.
Yeah. Yeah, so Steve and I were actually just talking the other day. Oh, sorry. Go ahead, Dwayne.
Yeah, Steve, you had a question there. Maybe you just want to ask that personally.
Yeah, so the question I had is, as it relates just to Western Christians, do you find an increase, decrease, or do you find it leveling out in terms of them going to the Unreached?
Yeah, I was earlier on, I was actually talking to David about how, there was a time when Unreached as a term was kind of really popular. Then there was kind of a dipping point. I think that specifically focusing on the Unreached, there's kind of an uptick again. I think partially because I don't know. I think this younger generation is grabbing a hold of this. They don't mind going to the least, the last, the lost. The farthest. The Bible says that we go to the uttermost, not just Jerusalem and Judea and Samaria, of course, the uttermost. And that word means like the lowest and the highest, like the nth degree. And I think this generation is kind of like up for challenge. Hey, give me something I can sink my teeth.
Yeah.
So some of the barriers to the unreached, I think, generation at least, they're not as important as they might have been to generations just before. However, with that said, I think first of all we see a decrease in Westerners going as missionaries. Period. So, and then as far as long term, there's a lot of going, but it's short term. A lot of these groups will not be reached short term, although short term missions can really serve the cause of reaching the unreached. My answer, I guess, to you is kind of maybe a decrease overall, but maybe just an increase, at least in interest lately again.
Now, the younger crew, are they the ones that you're talking about going shorter term versus traditional longer term in the past?
I do hear a lot of talk about going short term. Again, that can be brilliant. That can really serve the ones that are on the field. David could tell us about not Westerners. David could tell us about people who are reaching people in their backyard or down the across the ridge or that kind of thing. But they can be very strategic short termers to serve the effort to plant the church that's God broken up. That's not going to be done short term. It just isn't.
You're talking to a guy too. I think I'll give you a little shout out here, Steve, because we had such a great conversation the other day. I think we share a passion, Dwayne, Steve and I, that is, maybe you as well, indigenous missionaries, local people reaching their own tribes. And I think Steve has been a part of empowering locals to reach their own peoples as well. And we were just talking about the power of the maybe an Asian American missionary, those who are going to experience a lot less culture shock when moving into a certain area.
Right. Well, at the beginning of this, I mentioned about the global church, that Joshua Project presents this list to the global church and said we'd visit this because I knew that David was going to bring this around to this area. So the commission,
dangerous like that, huh?
Yeah. The Great Commission is for all of us. That means our brothers and sisters in Asia,
sure,
Africa, and all around the world. Those of us, David, Steve, others of us, you who are listening, you're kind of in the mission world. You know that there's good news around the world because of what God is doing, what His Holy Spirit is doing in people around the world to reach their near neighbors, this indigenous missionaries. I know we constantly get information from a group called Advancing Native Missions, and they're taking our list for their areas and saying, hey, we'll reach our near neighbors. We'll be more intentional about missions. And so whereas before they might just say, well, we're going to focus on this group. No, now they realize, oh, wait a minute, these guys need something just over the rise here or in the next valley. So we get to cooperate. We get a place at God's table together with our brothers and sisters around the world. I'm really excited about what we don't get to know about. So you were talking about that increase or the decrease or the leveling out. Which one is it for Western missionaries? Maybe we just naturally kind of fit somewhere else into the missionary effort. Research, that's something that is coming of age around the world, but it's been kind of in the Western territory, at the Western table setting, and with a family of Christ. So those who are actually doing the boots on the ground, increasingly that's people who know very well what they're doing because they live there. They are nationals.
Yeah. Yeah, that's what I'm loving, seeing a trend. In my context, you see the Cultural Revolution in China, 1949. There's missionary efforts beforehand, all the way up until basically the strong taking over of the country by communism. All missionaries kicked out, 1949, before, maybe a couple years after. Suddenly, there is no missionary effort. Basically, the missionary gets the flat tire on the way to the unreached people group. Uh-oh, are they ever going to be reached? And through these 1966 to 76, the strongest, most desperate times of the Cultural Revolution in China, church is undergoing major persecution, and there is no one there for them except God Almighty, the Holy Spirit. Missionaries, missiologists come back many years later and say, is the church in China dead? Is it dead and gone? Meanwhile, there has been this uprising of Christianity, and now what they're saying by 2030, just a few years from now, there will be more Chinese Christians if it progresses along the same growth data. More Chinese Christians than there are Americans. Not American Christians, but Americans, over 350 million. So, again, this was without foreign missionary help. And I think God is excited and passionate about using people from the own culture to reach their own tribes. I'm sure your minds are both running with some ideas on that one. But by the way, we need to boost Steve's props up here.
Oh, yeah. That's right.
He's falling behind desperately. No.
This is
now it's inflated.
This is just trying to get here. I'll take you up to 100. And Steve, you'll have to earn some more here. You have promotion. I see our logo going up, so that's a promotion each time. So.
Is that all it is? Okay, so you're promoting Joshua Project and the Denver Broncos. Got it. So, by the way, I wanted to, Steve, we were talking the other day about, and we touched on it a moment ago, Dwayne, the fuzziness of the word unreached. Mm-hmm. And I have a question that I kind of borrowed your statement. Did you want to ask the question and I'll throw it up as you talk? Or just share your thoughts, I guess, not so much a question.
You mean the one about the, I'm trying to remember.
Yeah, it was basically ranting and raving. No, just kidding. Yeah. This is what I gathered, the gist from your statement, because we were talking about how today is different. It's a different day and age. Joshua Project 20 years ago, we're using terms and definitions, but it could become a fuzzy definition these days. Using the word unreached is the best way to describe the least reached peoples of the 1040 window in this day and age. I mean, the definition seems to have become fuzzy. Is there a more accurate term that needs to be introduced for the sake of reaching the remaining unreached? That's going to throw a whole kink into the Unreached of the Day apps and Joshua Project. So we're not talking about changing the whole world, but does that actually define and clearly show who we're talking about when we're talking about the Unreached?
That's a great question. Really.
Well, thanks. It was Steve's, not me.
Okay, so let's see here.
I just made it sound better. Just kidding.
Okay, so I would say we can change terms, and it'd be great to get a really good term. There's a couple of problems. So we're just talking about this the day I flew out here to upstate New York in the office. Just thinking, for one thing, unreached, are we gauging the proclamation of the gospel to them or the response? Joshua Project gauges the response, not who is evangelized as far as who has heard the message, but who has responded to the message. Yeah. There's a problem in Spanish when we try to, you reach the bus or you miss it. There's a problems with these terms.
Our organization itself is called Within Reach Global.
Yeah.
Try to translate that into a local language.
Yeah, there's lots of other that are taking, reach, used to be Mission to Unreached Peoples.
Yeah.
They moved away from the reached part of their unreached part of their name. If we change the term and we come up with something better, I think 10 years down the road, it's got problems too. If you come up with
fair enough,
I think it'd be good to join into the conversation of what would be better. I think that'd be good. I don't know if Steve, did you have any suggestions for that, or just a question about whether that's a valid, a helpful term these days?
No, I asked David because he's the creative one.
Oh, yeah. I've just been hanging out on thesaurus.com the whole time. Unreached.
Yeah.
I wrote this short article recently, but part of it was thinking about last year. I started coming across people who were talking about Bostonians up in Boston as being unreached, and how we had forsaken them with the gospel. And then, my earbuds keep falling off.
Certainly the Patriots. I mean,
well, yeah,
all right, stand up, Dwayne. Give her a shout out. Come on.
Yeah, I can't talk about my team, so.
Well, I'm in Thailand, so you guys go for it. I haven't been in America in quite a number of years, so.
So someone was talking to you about Bostonians being.
No, I was in a, I wouldn't say a meeting. It was kind of a default that I was there, but it was a prospective church planter that was talking about how he was going to an unreached people group. He was going to plant a church where there was no growing church, and it went on and on and on. And then he says, "I'm going to Boston," and.
I mean, again, as David was saying earlier, it's one thing if he's going to Boston and he's reaching out to, there's the word, this group that really, is isolated from the gospel, from a real growing, spreading gospel message among the group. Yeah, that's true. I mean, we've got them everywhere. I just met up with someone. There was a conference for finishing the task at Saddleback Church. Bumped into a friend of mine, Grant Haynes. You
guys were both there at the same time, by the way.
What's that?
You guys were both there at the same time. Oh, Steve, I'm sorry. No, Steve, you weren't there. I was talking to someone else.
No, yeah. Okay.
I'm sorry. Issachar Initiative, guys.
Oh, okay.
I forgot, sorry.
Well, it's a lot of the same DNA and okay. But, these... my friend Grant runs a training center, missions training center in Clarkson. It's just outside of Atlanta, and I think they talk about that as being the most diverse city, one of the most diverse cities in the country. So yeah, they actually are reaching the unreached. They're reaching out to the unreached with the gospel in their backyard, and they don't mean people who can bump into these churches on the corner where the gospel is spoken and is preached in their language, or the forms are their culture. So yeah, we can talk about that. We just need to make sure that there's a distinction between those who are, unreached and those who just the numbers are down for followers of Christ. I mean, it has to do about availability of the gospel.
Well, they were talking about American-born English speakers.
Okay.
Who'd had a long history in the States. So they weren't talking about the people coming from the 1040 window or anything like that. Yeah,
sure. So, yeah, we need to do these distinctions. But again, if we created a great term, today, 10 years from now, 5 years from now, it's being mistreated or, misused, misapplied, because it becomes just a great hashtag to use,
And that's what we're talking about. I think more surfacey kind of, definitions. I think you already do a great job of defining what you mean by unreached based upon the 2 or 5% data or statistics. And it could get a little bit heady. It could get a little bit analytical, and people don't dive deeper down into the depths of the website and submenus, and instead kind of just remain up there on the surface where you get hashtag missions, hashtag unreached. And But I do like the idea of clearly communicating the definition. The reality is the whole point of this conversation is refocusing people back to the least reached people groups where there is no access, where there is no gospel. Why? Because Revelation 7:9, we want every nation, tribe, tongue, language there. Matthew 24:14, this gospel of the kingdom will be preached in every and around all the world to every nation or ethnic people group, and then the end will come. And so the whole point of this conversation, by the way, if you're watching live, if you're watching the replay, it's that Joshua Project is managing and overseeing these statistics, not to hoard them, not to make it a big numbers game, but to propel and inspire people out to reach those who have no or little to no access with the gospel. And for that statement, I'm getting a few props, so I appreciate that.
I just posted something on your right-hand screen, those who are watching, just a link to our definition page. And that'll be helpful, at least for Joshua Project. If you're at somebody else's page, like International Mission Board, their peoplegroups.org, they might talk about people groups, Unreached, a little bit differently. Their criteria is just a little bit different. We cooperate with them. But anyway, that's a real helpful place to engage with definitions, what we're talking about. Unreached, what's a people group, what is engaged, what is, these different definitions.
So I think that's the kind of stuff that for Steve, for myself, for others who are probably in what I would call frontier missions or in areas or regions that have little to no access to the gospel, could sometimes be frustrating because we are reaching those who will walk in, literally they have no concept of what a Jesus is, never met a Christian, have not seen a church before, don't have a Christian broadcast station. So to us, when then we go home and tell people about these needs and the struggles and the reality of lostness of humanity in our target region, then it's a little confusing and frustrating when they say, oh yeah, we have unreached people groups here too in Prescott, Arizona. And we don't have any, not even one unreached person in Prescott, Arizona, who is basically a local, minus those who have migrated from overseas. So I think that's just basically the gist behind the thoughts. Steve's smiling there like he agrees with me. I'm not exactly sure. He's giving me props for that. All right. He must agree.
Okay.
Well,
you talked about those, the migration thing. This is, certainly in the United States, it's a hot button topic right now. About
Should I change the topic of this migration and have 1 million people follow us on?
Everybody's talking about the refugee situation around the world and whatever. Yeah. Well, God does amazing things in the middle of all these kind of things. And, a lot of us are about to come into, or already, if you pay attention, look around, we're already in the mix where there's all these people who are coming from situations. They're coming from unreached people groups, by the way. Yeah. And we have an opportunity to reach out to our neighbors. We better start here. We better do it here before we ever think about doing it elsewhere. Wherever here means, Australia, London, cities that are receiving these refugees. I looked at a map that, when kind of refugees were starting to be, UNHCR was starting to place refugees. It's just the last, a decade or 2 decades, the numbers of refugees around the world are just astronomical. We can take advantage of this. The church should always be taking advantage of these times when people are in transition. They're very open to the gospel often that way. Well, at least relatively open to the gospel.
Well, they're outside their own culture, family structures. They're floundering really geographically. Excuse me, sorry.
Yeah, we have... We moved into, like I said, we moved into a new house. We actually had to move to the northern part of the city, a much more diverse part of Colorado Springs. Right away, we're neighbors with, we have Sikh neighbors,
Awesome.
Very thick accents, kind of hard carry on a conversation with them, but we're befriending them. And, she brings chai, to my wife.
Awesome.
And just leaves the cup with her. So we got this cup from this Sikh neighbor until we could return it to her. And I kept saying to my wife, hey, I can take this to the gas station they manage right up around the corner. And she says, no, I need to go visit her. That's my, that's an excuse to visit the next time,
Yeah.
So, we've got to have the mentality as a church that we're going to take advantage of every opportunity. I have a Jesus film in my, in my bag that I don't know how many languages is on it, like 12 or something languages. Let's get global in our thinking, because we're going to engage in people that are unreached around us.
Well, that reminds me, by the way, Steve and I think we're talking about this. Talking about, I think it was John Piper's quote, go, send, or disobey. Response to the Great Commission, response to Jesus' call to go into the world. However, I do feel today, this day and age, especially with immigration issues, etc., there's another third aspect, some would say more, besides the going and sending. There's the receiving side or greeting side. You're sitting wherever you are, if you're watching live, there are most definitely within the 5 miles or kilometers from your house right now, there are people who have migrated to your city who represent unreached people groups. That is, they have little to no concept or understanding who in the world this Jesus guy is. You are now in a perfect position. Get your mind off what the mainstream media is saying about immigration. Yes, there's some value to that, obviously, but open your eyes to the bigger macro perspective that God has, rather than that myopic view of what we should do as a country. See what kingdom stuff you should do in the macro perspective of God's heart for nations, and you can actually impact people from unreached cultures and unreached tribes. That's a pretty incredible opportunity. You don't have to leave your own zip code.
Right.
I get a little passionate about that.
Well, I may have to leave my zip code.
You're that kind of guy.
In the deep south, South Carolina. There's just not much around where I'm at.
Well, you hung out in Asia for long enough. You're already you got bit by the bug. You're going to be heading back soon, I'm sure.
Yeah,
I'm trying.
Right now, I'm in upstate New York. And there's not diversity right here. And, you have to be more intentional about it. But and I think you can be intentional about it. There's awesome tools out there. There's I encourage everybody to. I don't have a link for you, but I will just write this down, and that's the Colo app. So check that out.
Okay. I don't know what that is.
You can get that app. It's got the Jesus film and several, I think, the 4 spiritual laws and several other things in lots of languages. It's incredible. It's just there's a real, open-handedness in the world of those who are doing tools, multilingual tools for missions today. Jesus Film said that they will, they'll commit to do a project, a Jesus Film translation for any people, any unreached people group. You have to, if you advocate for that to be done, however, you have to be part of sharing it. It has to be shown. You have to commit to show it so many times in a year, I think. But that's an amazing thing.
Well, that's really cool. Everybody go check out. And actually, that's a perfect little segue. I wanted to kind of reset. We've got a number of people who are viewing here live. I'm really happy you guys are here. I've been trying to chat with you and welcome everyone. But I wanted to say this. If you're watching from your browser and you haven't actually signed into into Blab with your Twitter account, you'll be unable to engage. Everybody here, I really appreciate you guys being on. Would love it if you would share this, tweet it out to some friends, post it on your Facebook, because I would love to see even more eyes and understanding on the Joshua Project, not only to give them more props like I'm doing now, but to inspire other Christians to take part in the Great Commission, to see and to remember those who are forgotten, the least reached people groups. So I'm really happy. I'm talking here to Dwayne Frazier. His name's not up there. This guy's name is not Joshua Space Project up on the orange above next to me here. And Steve Shermer from Silk Road Catalyst is here. We're just excited to be talking about things that are up our alley as far as our passion goes. Unreached, unengaged people is inspiring the church to take the gospel to every little corner where it has not yet arrived. And so that's the gist of our conversation today, focusing specifically on Joshua Project, highlighting the unreached through statistics, data, and numbers that represent names and individuals and faces. So let me ask you this here. I wanted to ask you maybe one more question, and I know we gotta run here pretty soon, Dwayne. But I wanted to ask you, as you do all this data and research and analysis about unreached people groups, I'll throw it up so everyone can see, what propels you to do what you do? Do you receive updates from frontier missionaries that inspire you to see the results of your research? Is it a day in, day out thing, and you're kind of like, I can't wait till 5 p.m.? What inspires you to do what you do?
We don't hear enough. We'd like to hear a lot more, but let me share you an incredible story. First of all, I'm gonna put down here, the Unreached of the Day is something that we do. We've been doing for a few years, but that's each day. You were talking about putting a face with it. Each day we have one people group, one unreached group that we're promoting for prayer. Thousands are getting to see this a day. We're putting it in front of about 60 to 70,000 people. Now,
wow.
Things being what they are, that's not how many people that are praying, but there are people praying. A year ago, we were praying for the Dahalo group of Kenya. And this lady she was in a prayer meeting in the States, I think it was. She met a Kenyan pastor from Nairobi. She said, hey, I've got this app. So you go here and there's an app for the Unreached of the Day on iPhone and Android devices. She said, hey, look here, here, let's see what we've got for Kenya on this app, because you can look by country. And we do have some groups there from Kenya. And she showed this pastor, the Dahalo, and he said, well, I know where they are. I mean, they're not close to me in Nairobi, but I know where they are. I know about them. I'll commit to do something. He made good on that. He went back to Nairobi, and in I think it was about May of this year, he took a plane, he took a bus, he took a car, he got on a boat, and then like a little boat, I think, and then he got on a motorcycle and got in there. And you look today, and we still have it as unreached. We're still trying to make sure that it's safe to kind of take them off the unreached. We won't say, hey, they're reached, but we're going to take them off the unreached. Someone saw that and did something about it. Man, that's, like prime rib, it just keeps you going, because you know that you get to have a part of at least putting it. We didn't reach a group. We didn't get on a motorcycle. We didn't get in a small boat, but somebody did, based on the information that we got to pass along.
Amen.
That stuff can keep us going for a long time.
Steve's ready to get on the boat here.
A boat, no. A plane,
okay,
yes.
Not the slow boat to China.
I did meet a lady on a plane going to China once that actually did the slow boat to China.
Oh, wow. I've spoken to the couple.
She was 70-something years old.
Wow. Times have changed. And because times have changed, everybody check out that link Joshua Project just shared. JoshuaProject.net/pray/unreached of the day. Go download the app. You could actually embed it in the sidebar of your website. Every day it pops up, depending on the calendar, a new face, a new place, a new location. Make sure you embed it on your website. At least get it on your phone. Once you do that, make sure you're praying for those who have yet to hear the gospel. Compassion is going to be empathy in action, not just social media slacktivism. Oh, I tweeted this out. I've done my duty for the day. let's inspire people for action for the unreached. Kingdom Nation says, I actually went to an unreached people group in Brazil and found a pastor there. Sent info to Joshua Project, but never got an answer. What's the best route to go about helping you guys? I'm gonna, why don't you answer that, because I'm sure that is a big question lots of people have. How do you update your data, and how do they contact you with that?
I'll answer it real quick. I'm really sorry to hear about that, because we really try to be as responsive as possible. Email us at info@joshuaproject.net. I personally get that, and I either engage with it or send it along to all the incredible staff, either Dan or Bill. And, we need to get that information answered. So, into our mix, and we update our data every about 2 weeks. So whatever you see is the best we've got, and stuff like this can make it onto the web in that time. So please do, again, info@joshuaproject.net.
I basically just messaged the other way. I messaged Dwayne. I didn't know Dwayne until a couple weeks ago. I just randomly called Joshua Project out of the blue. The response time was incredible. They definitely treat every email personally. So if you have information, you can't find it, it's buried on the website, how to update this information, definitely email them. info@joshuaproject.net. I think Joshua Project will be happy to respond to that, and it's their heart to update those statistics and data. And I just wanted to kind of, as we close down, I wanted to ask you this, Dwayne. What are some of your needs right now, and how can people contact you as an organization?
That email, that's the best way to contact. I'm going to put up here a really neat page. I think we're asking people to help out with getting us photos, getting us to textual descriptions. There's a lot of information there that's on the internet, on Wikipedia or whatever, that's describing these people groups. Let's put a face and an understanding of who these people are, not just a name and their numbers, their statistics. Let's kind of humanize this so that we're praying very well, and we're seeing them for what we're talking about here tonight. People, real people who are gospel poor, who are cut off from the kingdom that we're pressing into. So we're looking for those, as I say, those textual descriptions, photos, missing photos. They have to be copyright free, Creative Commons kind of photos, and maps. We don't get a whole lot of those, but that kind of identify more or less where these people groups are. So you can there's also a need for translators, because we offer the Unreached of the Day by email and other ways, English, Spanish, Portuguese, and Korean. And there's a version of all but the Portuguese on the apps. So you can get the app in Spanish or Korean.
No Chinese version? Mandarin?
Hey, I'm calling for translators. So
好的，我帮你翻译一下啊。No, I'm not going to do it. But so go check that.
If you can rally people together, David, to even
Sure.
check on our website. So anyone here listening to that speaks a second language and thinks, hey, the Church of God that speaks this language needs this information.
Awesome. Yeah, Kingdom Nations is saying I can help with Portuguese. Again, share this out on your social media networks. Joshua Project is doing an amazing job helping empowering frontier missions and missionaries to reach the least reached people groups. Dwayne may not be on a slow boat to China every week. That's not going to work like that anyway, I guess. But what he is doing is helping through Joshua Project to empower those who are focused on bringing the gospel to the least reached and unengaged people groups. So it looks like, Dwayne, you're killing it on the props. Everybody loved you and your Broncos shirt with 221 there.
Yeah.
And Steve, you did pretty good for coming in late.
Hey, I got triple digits this time.
Just want to say at Kingdom Nation, that if you send into info, I also manage the translators and the Portuguese. I don't speak it
Awesome.
myself.
So you're talking to the right guy here. Mr. Dwayne Frazier at Joshua Project would be happy to help out with that. And in the end, I just want to thank both of you guys for being on here. Steve, always love to chat, and I think we share a lot of passions and heart about the Unreached and etc. And so, yeah, blessing to you and Silk Road Catalyst.
Yes, thank you. And when do you come back?
I am here in Thailand. I'll be heading to the States in 2 days from now. So the 22nd, I think I arrive. Time zone issues.
Very nice. Welcome back.
Thank you. Yeah, I will. I'll get in touch, and I'll still be on Blab. By the way, follow me on Blab here because I got a number of things on the plate for scheduled broadcasts. A bunch of great conversations if you check out the replay. Yeah, divine appointment. So I'm glad you could catch the replay, by the way, with the same link. So you could catch the whole beginning and see what we were actually talking about and what Dwayne was sharing. But Dwayne, really happy to be conversing with you. I pray that this would really bring more eyes on Great Commission, finishing the task, inspiring people to get involved. I will also be creating a blog with this whole conversation embedded in it on davidjoannes.com. So, yeah, thank you guys so much for being here, and really, really appreciate your heart.
Well, thank you, David, for hosting here. Thank you for everyone who's live now and cares about unreached people, and those who will watch it in the future. Let's do something together. Yeah,
amen. Amen. All right, well, you guys, you have a wonderful day. I've got to take off here soon. Brown Boy Studios, thanks for that, and welcome, Stacy. Sorry, we're jumping off. We arrived. Hi. Stacy was actually the former writer for Voice of the Martyrs Persecution blog for many, many years. We met here on Blab as well. So, yeah, great to see you, but I've got to run, you guys. It's actually my daughter's 3rd-year birthday today, and we're going to go have a bunch of Hello Kitty stuff happening here in a second.
All right.
So that's a little shift from the topic here. But blessings to you guys. Be inspired, and thank you for all that you do at Joshua Project.
Thank you, David. Thanks, Steve.
All right.
Yeah, thank you guys.
All right, you guys, take care.
All right, bye-bye.